FTX did not collapse because of one bad trade. It collapsed because one company was allowed to override the rules that protected everyone else. Not the market, not competition, but a structural failure hidden inside the system. FTX reached a valuation of $32 billion. Then, within days, the entire structure began to unravel. Here is why the back door was only the symptom, and the real failure was control. From the outside, FTX looked powerful. It had customers, capital, influence, and the appearance of sophisticated risk management. But a company can look advanced while operating on primitive controls. The critical question was not whether FTX had money. It was whether the system could prevent one entity from accessing money it did not own. That question was never properly answered. FTX was connected to Alameda Research, a trading firm closely associated with its leadership. The danger was not simply that the companies were connected. The danger was that the relationship created a special path through the system. A normal customer could not access the same privileges, but Alameda was given a mechanism that allowed it to move billions in customer funds. That changed the entire risk structure. The exchange was no longer operating under one set of rules. It had an exception. And exceptions become dangerous when nobody has the authority or the courage to challenge them. A backdoor can sound like a technical problem, but this was not primarily a technology failure. It was a governance failure. The system allowed a related company to operate with privileges that ordinary customers did not have. That means the problem was not only what the code permitted, it was who approved the permission. Who reviewed it? Who could stop it? Who received the reports? Who was accountable when the numbers stopped making sense? When those questions remain unanswered, a company can continue growing while its controls quietly disappear. This is the dangerous illusion of rapid success. The bigger the company becomes, the more people assume somebody else is checking. The investors assume the board is checking. The board assumes management is checking. Management assumes the system is checking. And eventually, nobody is actually checking. That is how a control failure becomes a culture. It starts as a private exception. Then the exception becomes convenient. Then convenience becomes normal. Finally, the organization forgets that a rule was ever supposed to exist. Once billions moved through a system with weak separation, every new decision increased the risk. More borrowing, more exposure, more pressure to protect the image of stability. The company needed confidence from customers, investors, employees, and partners. But confidence is not control. A strong reputation can delay scrutiny. It cannot replace independent oversight. When customers began questioning whether their funds were safe, the structure could not withstand the pressure. The system had been built to move money quickly. It had not been built to stop the wrong money from moving. That distinction is what separates a fast-growing company from a resilient one. A fast-growing company asks, how quickly can we expand? A resilient company also asks, what happens when this system is stressed? FTX answered the first question aggressively. It failed to answer the second. The failure was made worse by the speed of the business. In a traditional company, weak controls may take months or years to expose themselves. In a digital financial system, customers can test the structure in real time. A rumor can become a withdrawal wave. A withdrawal wave can become a liquidity crisis. A liquidity crisis can become a public collapse before leadership has time to create a story that explains it. That speed creates a brutal truth. A company cannot improvise control after the crisis begins. By then, the system is already revealing what it was built to do. The central lesson from FTX is not simply, do not trust the wrong founder. That lesson is too shallow. The deeper lesson is this. No individual or related company should be able to override the system without independent control. Not because every leader is dishonest, Because every organization becomes dangerous when authority is concentrated and information is filtered. A company needs separation between customer assets and company assets. It needs separation between trading decisions and financial controls. It needs separation between leadership authority and independent review. And it needs separation between growth targets and risk limits. Without those separations, success can hide weakness. The valuation becomes proof that the strategy works. The funding becomes proof that the controls exist. The reputation becomes proof that the leadership is trustworthy. But none of those things prove that the machine is safe. They only prove that people believe it is safe. This is where many founders make the same mistake. They treat friction as failure. A finance review slows the launch. A second approval slows the transfer. An independent director asks uncomfortable questions. A risk limit blocks the most ambitious plan. So leadership removes the friction. At first, the company feels faster, but the speed is borrowed from the future. Every control removed creates a hidden liability. The organization moves faster because it has stopped checking whether it is moving in the right direction. That is not efficiency. It is unmeasured exposure. So what should a growing company do differently? There are 3 controls every company needs before it scales further. First, separation. Related businesses must not share unrestricted access to the same resources. If one entity can borrow from another without independent approval, the boundary is not real. Second, visibility. Executives and boards need reports that show risk, not only growth. Revenue, valuation, and customer numbers tell you what is expanding. They do not tell you what can break. Third, a stop mechanism. Someone must have the authority to pause a decision before it becomes irreversible. That person cannot be rewarded only for agreeing with leadership. The stop mechanism must be real, not ceremonial. It needs a named owner, it needs a clear trigger, and it needs protection from retaliation. Otherwise, employees learn to wait until the problem is impossible to hide. If bad news is punished, bad news disappears. And when bad news disappears, failure becomes inevitable long before the public sees it. This is why governance is not paperwork. It is the operating system that keeps growth from becoming self-destruction. The bigger the company, the more expensive a private mistake becomes. At a small startup, one unchecked transfer may create a painful week. At a company valued in the billions, the same weakness can freeze customer funds, destroy confidence, and trigger a collapse in days. Scale does not make weak controls less important. Scale makes them more dangerous. The practical test is simple. Ask who can say no. Who can reject a transfer? Who can challenge the forecast? Who can question the related party transaction? Who can stop the founder when the founder is wrong? If the answer is unclear, the company does not have a control system. It has a collection of hopes, and hope is not a control. FTX did not fail because it lacked money. It failed because the system allowed trust to replace control. The back door mattered. But the deeper failure was creating an organization where one relationship could bypass the rules designed to protect everyone else. Not the code alone, not the valuation alone, but the absence of independent control. Because the strongest companies are not the ones with the most confidence. They are the ones that can survive uncomfortable questions. Who can stop the founder? Who can challenge the biggest customer? Who can freeze the transfer? Who can publish the bad number? If the answer is nobody, the company is not controlled. It is merely trusted. And trust is not a risk management system. Subscribe to Real Kintax for disciplined breakdowns of the structural failures behind ambitious companies. Growth without control is not strength. It is delayed collapse.